Okay, so now what we're going to talk about is how to solve a one-step inequality. If you can solve a one-step equation, you can solve a one-step inequality. Remember, an inequality is when we have one of these math verbs. Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal to, or approximately equal to. We're going to follow the exact same steps that we do when we solve a one-step equation. The only difference is, instead of dropping an equal sign as we go and having an equal sign at the end, we're going to have one of these 6 inequality signs. So the first thing we're going to do is draw our balance scale. Instead of drawing it on the equal sign, we're going to draw it on the inequality sign. Now remember, step 1, we have to use the inverse. We need to recognize that this is a one-step addition, and so our inverse is going to be the opposite. So I'm going to add -5. Step 2, remember, is balance the scale. So I'm going to add -5 over here. Now I do the math. 5 plus -5 is 0. Drop my x plus, and I'm going to drop a less than sign instead of an equal sign. This is probably going to be the hardest thing that most of us do. You have to remember that you're dropping the inequality sign and not an equal sign. 8 plus -5 is 3. And of course, step 3 is use the identity or look in the mirror. X plus 0 is x, less than 3. So our answer is x less than 3. What this means is, I want a number that when I add it to 5, my answer will be less than 8. I don't want 8. I want a number less than 8. This is saying as long as I pick a number less than 3, this will be less than 8. So how do we check our answer? Don't pick 3. When you check your answer, don't plug 3 back in. Plug back in what this tells you to. This says pick a number less than 3 to plug in. So 2, 1, 0, any negative number, a half. Now, I'm going to pick 0 because that's probably the easiest one I can go ahead and multiply with or add with. So as long as I pick a number less than 3, I'm going to pick 0. So 0 plus 5, is that less than 8? 0 plus 5 is 5, and in fact that is less than 8. So my answer has been checked, and it's good to go. Okay, make sure that you keep your inequality sign and that you check properly and understand what it's saying. Let's try a multiplication one. So now we're going to do a one-step multiplication. Let's try something else. Okay, so we're going to draw our balance scale. Once again, we're going to follow those 3 steps. Step 1, I'm going to use the inverse. Now this is multiplication, so my inverse is going to be multiplied by the reciprocal. I'm going to multiply by 1/6. Now I'm going to balance my scale and multiply this side by 1/6. Any number times its reciprocal is 1. Drop the x. 48 times 1/6 is 8. And my sign is greater than or equal to. Now I'm going to look in the mirror. X is greater than or equal to 8. So this is saying if I want to take 6 times a number and get it to be greater than or equal to 48, so 48 or larger, I need to pick a number that is 8 or bigger than 8. Remember, the equal to would include it. So this time I could pick 8 to check my answer, or I could also pick a number bigger than 8. I'm just going to pick one bigger than 8 to make it easy, and I'm going to pick 10 because that's easy to work with. So I'm going to see, does 6 times 10 give me a number that is greater than or equal to 48? Well, 6 times 10 is 60, and 60 is in fact greater than or equal to 48, so I know I have a correct answer. So as you can tell, solving a one-step inequality, whether addition or multiplication, is exactly the same steps as solving our one-step addition and multiplication equations, equalities. The only difference is that this verb is going to be not an equal sign. You have to keep it, and then checking your answer is a little different because you got to think about what your answer is actually saying. But otherwise, it's going to be exactly the same as before.